I took the ferry job because ships felt safer than trains. On a train, anyone can step in front of you, next to you, onto the tracks. The danger feels immediate, human. On a ship, there's distance. Steel. Water. Systems. You can pretend that if anything goes wrong, it will be the ocean's fault, not someone's choice. That's what I thought, anyway, before I met the passenger who wasn't on the manifest. My name is Sora. In my third year of university, I worked nights on the Hokuryu Maru, an overnight ferry that ran between Niigata and Otaru. 12 hours across cold black water. Trucks in the belly, cars above them, and 3 decks of passengers sleeping in cabins or sprawled on tatami floors. My job was simple, night steward. I checked tickets, answered questions, vacuumed the lounges, and walked the corridors every hour to make sure no one was sick, smoking, or trying to open doors that only open in emergencies. The head purser, a heavy man named Tanaka, explained it like this. "The sea is simple," he said. "It wants everything. Our job is not to feed it by mistake." He slapped the thick folder of paper on his desk. "This is the manifest," he said. "If a name is here, they should be on board. If a name isn't, they shouldn't. If any number doesn't match, we stop. Understand?" I nodded. He smiled. "Good," he said. "Because people lie. Numbers don't." On my first trip, we had a full sailing, trucks loaded with frozen seafood, families heading north to visit grandparents, a tour group of retirees who sang enka in the lounge until midnight. We did the muster drill, everyone grumbling politely as they put on life jackets they'd never need. "Perfect safety record," Tanaka said, proudly. "Not a single passenger death in 15 years. That sounded impressive. I only learned later that the Hokuryu Maru wasn't that old. The record started after something else. The crew members who actually made me feel safe were the safety officers. There were 2, a younger guy my age, Ken, who joked too much but knew every locker on board, and a veteran named Kuroda. Kuroda-san was in his late 40s, lean and quiet, with windburned skin and a face that looked like it had been carved by bad weather. He'd worked Coast Guard before joining the ferry line. His movements were efficient, his voice calm. "If you ever panic, look for him," one of the cleaners told me. "He's impossible to scare." That seemed like a compliment at the time. Kuroda had a strange sense of humor. During lulls at night, he'd lean against the rail on the passenger deck and ask me questions like, "If someone fell overboard and you had 30 seconds to throw something, what would you throw?" "A life ring?" I said the first time. He shook his head. "Wrong. A spotlight. People swim toward light. That buys you more than a ring someone can miss." Another night. "If we had to abandon ship, who do you think would run first? The truck drivers, the families, or the students?" "The truck drivers," I said. He smiled thinly. "Wrong again," he said. "It's always the ones who think they're responsible for everyone else. Responsibility makes people selfish in interesting ways." He said interesting like someone talking about an experiment. The night it happened, the air felt wrong before we even left port. A low-pressure system was curling in from the west. The forecast said gusty winds and rough seas, but the company didn't want to lose the schedule. Freight couldn't wait. We boarded fewer trucks than usual, fewer cars, fewer people. "Only 312 tonight," Tanaka said, eyeing the manifest. "Feels empty." He turned to me. "Do a proper count, understood?" he said. "No shortcuts. Low numbers are when mistakes hide." We cast off at 23:30. City lights slid away, the ship's horn bellowed once, long and low. The sea accepted us with a slap against the hull. By 1 a.m., most passengers were asleep. The lounge TV showed muted late-night shows, vending machines hummed. Outside, the wind had begun to push spray over the lower deck. I met Kuroda near the life jacket locker on deck 5. He was counting. 313, he murmured, then nodded to himself. 313 what? I asked. Life jackets, he said. We always lay them out on rough nights, just in case. Easier to grab than stacked. He gestured to the neat line of orange foam vests strapped along the wall. I frowned. I thought we had 312 passengers, I said. He glanced at me. Plus crew, he said. Right, but these are the passenger vests, I said. Crew vests are in the locker, no? Yes, he said. Then why 313? I asked. He smiled faintly. One to spare, he said. In case we counted wrong the other way. He snapped off the locker light. I told myself it was nothing. At 2:17 a.m., I was at the night counter on deck 6, flipping through a tourist brochure and trying not to fall asleep, when a woman approached. She was in her 30s, hair tied back, wearing a faded sweater and jeans. Her eyes were too awake for the hour. Excuse me, she said. My friend is missing. The phrase hit harder than I expected. Missing? I repeated. From your cabin? She nodded. We're in B224, she said. We went to bed around midnight. I woke up to use the bathroom just now. Her bed is empty. Her shoes are gone. Her phone is still there. She's not in the bathroom, not in the lounge, not in the smoking room. She swallowed. She's scared of the ocean, she added. She wouldn't just go for a walk alone out there. I stood up. Name? I asked, reaching for the manifest. Yuri, she said. Full name, Sato Yuri. I flipped to cabin list. B224. Sato, Yuri. Wakabayashi, Miho. Okay, I said. That's you? Wakabayashi, she said. I picked up the phone and called the bridge. Night steward, I said. Possible missing passenger, B224 Sato Yuri. Last seen midnight. Requesting permission to start search. The officer on duty acknowledged. In the background, I heard the wind howling louder. Within 10 minutes, we had a pattern. I checked lounges and public areas, Ken checked smoking rooms and observation decks, Kuroda took the outside walkways and lower deck. We found nothing. No one matching her description on any camera. No one in the bathrooms, no one in the stairwells. At 2:43, Kuroda returned to the station, rain dripping from his jacket. Nothing outside, he said. If she's out there, she's already beyond lights. His tone was matter-of-fact. Wakabayashi turned pale. So she fell, she whispered. You're saying she fell? Not yet, he said. We haven't finished checking inside. He looked at me. Did you count all occupied cabins during your rounds? He asked. Yes, I said. Everyone I saw was breathing. Everyone you saw, he repeated. He walked to the manifest folder and flipped through it quickly. 312, he murmured. 312 names. And yet what? I asked. He looked up, eyes strangely bright. And yet we have one extra vest laid out, he said quietly. You noticed that, didn't you? My mouth went dry. That has nothing to do with. Maybe, he said. Maybe not. He turned to Wakabayashi. Did Yuri mention talking to anyone on board? He asked. Anyone staff? Anyone who made her uncomfortable? She shook her head. No, she said. We only talked to each other. Kuroda nodded thoughtfully. Interesting, he said. I hated that word on his tongue. Protocol said we had to assume a man-overboard scenario if a passenger couldn't be found after a full search. But the sea was already rough, whitecaps breaking against the hull, spray smashing against the windows. Turning back or launching a boat would risk everyone else. The bridge decided to keep searching internally and wait until dawn to alert the Coast Guard, hoping we'd find her asleep in some corner with headphones on. Wakabayashi sat in the lounge, shaking, staring at her hands. I made coffee and hot water, tried to talk, said all the useless things people say when they have no real control. Kuroda leaned on the far wall, watching the room. At 3:10 a.m., the PA system crackled. I jumped. All channels announcements typically required a key and 2 buttons. Only the bridge, the purser, or a safety officer could make one. "This is," the voice said, then distorted. Not the calm baritone of the captain. Not Tanaka. Not Kuroda. "This is Yuri." Static swallowed the rest. The sound was wrong. Too wet, too close. The PA cut. My skin crawled. "Did you hear that?" I asked. Ken's face had gone white. "That sound didn't come from the bridge," he said. "Channel was off. I'd see the light from here." Wakabayashi stood up so fast her chair fell. "Yuri," she shouted, looking around. "Yuri, where are you?" Before anyone could answer, an internal phone rang behind the counter. I checked the display automatically. Cabin C-317. "There's no C-317, I said aloud. Ken frowned. "C cabins only go up to 316, he said. "Family rooms." The phone kept ringing. My hand hovered over it. "Let it ring," Ken muttered. "It's probably a cross line from a trucker's cabin. This weather messes with everything." The ringing cut off. We stood in silence. Then the PA crackled again. "Please," a faint voice said. "Cabin C-317. Needs extra life jacket." The last word broke off with a wet choke. I felt every hair on my arms stand up. "There's no C-317, I said again, as if repetition could make it true. Kuroda was suddenly next to the panel, his fingers moving over the controls. "Bridge, this is safety," he said into his hand mic. "Confirm any internal broadcast just now?" A pause. "Negative," the bridge replied. "No announcements scheduled. All PA keys are accounted for." He turned to us. "Glitch," he said. "Old system. Don't jump at shadows." But his eyes were wrong. Too focused, too bright. Not surprised. Interested. I should have stopped there. I should have stayed in the lounge, with other people, under fluorescent lights and security cameras. Instead, I went looking for cabin C-317. For sanity. For proof that this was just wires and weather and grief. C cabins were on deck 7, small, windowless boxes off a narrow corridor that smelled of detergent and old air. The numbers climbed evenly: C-301, C-302, C-316. Then a blank stretch of wall. No door. Just metal painted off-white, with a faint rectangular outline where something larger had once been bolted. I ran my hand along the seam. There was a keyhole set flush into the wall at waist height. No handle. No sign. Footsteps squelched behind me. "You're not supposed to be here," Kuroda said quietly. I turned. "You knew about this?" I asked. He shrugged. "There are always closed spaces on old ships," he said. "Equipment rooms. Storage. Places that don't make it onto passenger maps." "It's labeled in the system," I said. C-317. "It called us. Someone called us. From inside." His gaze drifted to the keyhole. "This cabin hasn't existed since before you were born," he said. "Whatever you heard was left over." He stepped closer to the wall. "Still," he murmured, "sometimes leftover things get curious when conditions are right." He pressed his ear to the metal. For a second, nothing. Then, very faintly, I heard it too. Thump. Thump. Soft, irregular, like bare feet on carpet. He smiled. "There," he said. "Not dead after all." "You said this cabin doesn't exist," I whispered. He straightened, eyes on me. "I said it doesn't exist on the sailing plan," he said. Different thing. The floor tilted slightly under my feet as the ship hit a larger wave. A bottle rolled somewhere behind us. Come back to the lounge, I said. We can't be in dead-end corridors in this weather. He shook his head. That depends, he said. On what you want to do with this opportunity. I stared at him. What are you talking about? He nodded toward the seam. 312 names on the manifest, he said. 313 vests. One cabin that shouldn't be here, asking for an extra life jacket. One missing girl. His voice was steady, matter of fact. Something is trying to resolve the difference. He looked at me as if we were discussing inventory, not a human being. The sea is simple, he continued. It wants everything. Our job, as Tanaka says, is not to feed it by mistake. But humans make mistakes anyway. Numbers don't. He pointed at my chest with 2 fingers. You're the only one who noticed the count, he said. The extra vest. The extra cabin. That means you actually understand what a perfect safety record costs. My mouth felt dry. What are you saying? I asked. That we're supposed to trade someone? He tilted his head. Not supposed to, he said. We already did. That record Tanaka loves so much. Not a single passenger death in 15 years? Do you know when it starts? He tapped the wall lightly. The year after C-317 was sealed, he said. The year after the company decided that one missing mandarin orange from a truck was less important than one missing passenger. I swallowed. You're insane, I whispered. Am I? He asked. You're the one standing here, listening to a room that doesn't exist ask for a life jacket. You're the one who followed the numbers. All I've ever done is organize accidents that were already going to happen. The thumping behind the wall grew louder. Like someone stumbling. Or being dragged. We can pretend she tripped on deck, he said. That she climbed over the rail. That she meant to die, or that the wind pulled her. We can call the Coast Guard in the morning, show them camera footage that proves nothing. He smiled. Or, he said, we can give the missing cabin its missing passenger, and let the manifest close cleanly. You're a safety officer, I said. You're supposed to prevent deaths. I prevent the wrong ones, he corrected. Do you know what happens if the numbers stay off? First one goes for a walk on the deck and vanishes. Next trip, someone falls asleep with a cigarette in a truck. Next week, an engine catches fire. The sea doesn't care which mistake eats which name. But it always eats. I just manage the menu. He looked carefully at me. I'm giving you a choice, he said. The same one my predecessor gave me when I was your age. He placed something in my hand. Cold. Smooth. A key. I can't open it from the manifest side, he said, nodding at the wall. Only a steward can. Only someone whose job is to answer when a cabin calls. I stared at the key. At the seam. At his face. You killed people, I said. I minimized waste, he replied. What is more value to you? A girl who trusted no one and disappeared without a sound? Or a truck full of produce? Or a busload of children on the next sailing, whose driver would have passed out from fatigue if we hadn't canceled because of a tragic accident the night before? He spread his hands. This is the sea's logic, he said. Cruel. Efficient. Something slammed into the wall from the other side. Hard. The metal boomed. Cold. A voice whispered through the seam. I recognized it. I had heard it through the PA. Sato Yuri. I don't remember deciding. I only remember moving. I turned and ran. Not toward the lounge. Not toward the bridge. Up. To the top deck, where the wind tried to tear the air out of my lungs and the rain lashed my face. The ship tilted, spray smashed over the rail, soaking my shoes. Behind me, I heard Kuroda calling my name. Not loudly. Not angrily. Curious. I staggered along the walkway, one hand on the slick rail. Lights glowed faintly on the horizon, another ship, maybe, or the reflection of our own mast lights in the clouds. The ocean heaved, black and endless. I stopped near the bow, chest burning. Kuroda emerged from the stairwell, almost unbothered by the storm. "You can't outrun the sea on a boat," he said, amused. "Where exactly were you planning to go?" I held up the key. He raised an eyebrow. "Going to throw it away?" he asked. "That just means someone will have to make another. Or pry the door open with a crowbar next time it calls. You can't fix numbers by closing your eyes." "What if we don't fix them?" I shouted over the wind. "What if we admit the record is a lie?" "And then what?" he asked. "The company cancels this route? Hundreds lose their jobs? Trucks back up on the docks? Some other ship, run by cheaper people, takes the freight and sinks with all of them because no one was making hard choices?" He took a step closer. Spray burst between us. "You think not choosing is innocent," he said. "It isn't. It's just choosing to let someone else decide. Or letting the sea decide." He extended his hand. "Give it back," he said. "Go downstairs. Tell Tanaka we didn't find her. He'll file his report. In the morning, you'll tell the Coast Guard you heard a voice on the PA that must have been a glitch. In a week, you'll sleep again." "And Yuri?" I asked. He shrugged. "The sea already has her," he said. "All we're doing is deciding whether her name stays in the paperwork." Lightning ripped across the clouds, briefly turning the deck white. In that strobe, I saw Kuroda clearly. Not cruel. Not angry. Just calm. A man who had accepted that someone had to look at the ledger and decide which lives to write in red. The ship rolled. My feet slid, my shoulder slammed into the rail. His hand shot out, grabbed my jacket. "Careful," he said. "It's not your turn." The words sent a cold blade down my spine. Not your turn. Not yet. I looked down at the water. It boiled against the hull, hungry. I looked at the key. At Kuroda's hand on my arm. "You said your predecessor gave you the same choice," I shouted. "What did you decide?" He smiled. "I opened the door," he said. "That's why we're still here. Why there's still a job for you." He tightened his grip. "Don't become sentimental on me now," he added. "You're better than that. You saw the extra vest before anyone told you. You answered the call. You followed the numbers. You're exactly the kind of person this ship needs." He leaned closer. "The sea always gets one," he whispered. "Better we choose." Something snapped inside me. I twisted, hard. His fingers slipped for a second. Long enough. I shoved him with both hands. It wasn't a heroic, cinematic push. There was no slow-motion gasp. One moment his weight was leaning toward me, confident, balanced. The next, the deck rolled the other way. He staggered sideways, boots skidding on wet metal. For a fraction of a second, he hung in space, arms pinwheeling. Our eyes met. There was no fear in them. Just surprise. Then he was gone. No scream. Just the sound of his body hitting the water, swallowed instantly by wind and waves. The ship rolled back. I fell to my knees, chest heaving. Alarms did not sound. No one shouted "man overboard." No one had seen. Just me. Me in the sea. The key sat cold and heavy in my palm. I clutched it so tightly my fingers hurt. Then I opened my hand and let it fall. The wind took it. Or the waves did. Either way, it vanished. "But you said the sea always gets one," I whispered, voice shaking. "Tonight, it got you." Lightning flickered again. For a second, I imagined a hand reaching up from the black, fingers brushing the hull, amused. In the morning, Kuroda didn't report for duty. Tanaka cursed about irresponsible staff. The captain called the Coast Guard. A search was launched along our route. Everyone assumed he'd fallen during the storm, alone on deck, a victim of his own confidence. No one said his name and safety record in the same sentence again. As for Yuri, they found something else. A pair of shoes on the outer deck, neatly set side by the rail. Her phone in the cabin. Her friend's statement about her fear of the sea. The camera showed nothing helpful. A flicker of a figure in a shadow here, a blurred reflection there. The official conclusion. Sato Yuri, presumed fallen overboard in rough weather. The unofficial whispers. Maybe she jumped. Maybe the storm pulled her. Maybe she was already gone before we left port, and the manifest simply hadn't been updated. No one mentioned cabin C-317. No one but me even knew it was there. A week later, when we sailed that route again, I checked the manifest. 312 names. On the rough nights, I still saw 313 vests laid out. Always good to have a spare, Ken said when I pointed it out. In case we counted wrong the other way. The company brought in a new safety officer from another ship. He shook my hand and smiled. Here you were close with Kuroda, he said. Must be hard. He taught me a lot, I said. That part was true. I lasted another month. Then I quit. I told them it was because of exams, because of my parents, because of the commute. All technically true. The real reason was this. On our last stormy crossing together, at 3:10 a.m., the PA crackled in my empty corridor. This is. A familiar voice said, distorted by static. This is. Kuroda. I froze. The sound wasn't coming from the speakers above my head. It was coming from the sealed wall where cabin C-317 wasn't. Status, 1 missing. The voice said calmly. Requesting compensation. The thumping behind the metal began again. Soft. Patient. Like someone pacing. Counting. Waiting for the numbers to line up. I turned and walked away. I didn't open it. I don't know if that saved anyone. I only know that when I lie awake now in my landlocked apartment and hear the building creak, I sometimes feel as if I'm back on the Hokuryu Maru, the floor shifting under me, the sea pushing at the hull. And somewhere in the dark, a calm voice is arguing with something deep and cold about how much a perfect safety record is worth. If you ever take a night ferry in Japan and someone proudly tells you they've never lost a passenger, listen carefully to the rest of the sentence. Because maybe the ocean hasn't taken anyone whose name is on the manifest. Maybe someone else has been choosing who falls instead. And if, on a rough night, the internal phones ring with a cabin number you can't find on any map, and a polite voice asks for 1 extra life jacket. Remember. Some doors at sea were sealed for a reason. And some killers don't push people overboard. They just tell the ocean which mistakes to accept.